So you put this little hut here together for your wife and your grandchildren, and
Yeah, well, this hut was built for the Moonlight 150th celebrations down in the hall.
oh yes,
And in 2015,
Yeah.
and just everyone had their photos taken sitting on an old rustic seat in front of it and that, so it was just to really depict the old gold diggers' huts from up the Moonlight in the day, you know. And
beautiful. Moonlights, this valley I can see over the back here.
yeah, that's the valley that runs right back up here into the Atarau's, and people sort of say, well, that's a wonderful name. How did it get a name like that?
Yeah, the old, is it an old prospector, I understand.
Oh, yeah, an old Scottish prospector. Yeah,
Tell us a bit more about that, Trev.
well, I guess the best way to tell the story is in verse, because it's a long story, but it's an amazing story, and it's kind of like from Scotland shores they say he came. Yet far from those highlands did he earn his fame. For a life of adventure before him lay, that land of tartan could coerce him not to stay. It was as a lad of 6 years plus 3 when the young George Moonlight put to sea. On herring boats where life was tough, midst sea and spray and fish and guts, but the lure of foreign lands came stronger, and direction changed to far off California. There coastal trading was the life, till Moonlight the mariner heard of gold, amongst the crags and creeks and rocks of old. There men of dreams would toil and toil, to wash the richness from God's own soil. Australian gold, the word was out. Pack up your swag, came the miners' shout. To Bendigo and Ballarat and other towns were springing up, where shanties that were made of cloth stood stark, and at the sinking of the sun men would sing and sup. From all the waves a tale came told, a man named Reed had struck the gold. So to Otago lands the drift began, where Moonlight, the prospector, was to the fore, and diggers came wondering, could he smell the ore? Rewards were out and pay they would, to any man who thought he could, and was prepared to risk the life, or maybe starve a week or more, or snap a leg and ne'er be found, just to prove some rich new ground. Moonlight's reputation was big, bigger than the rest. To find new ground would be a real test. So west he went along the coast, long damp green valleys past rugged peaks, and on he rode through weeks and weeks. And strike it rich he surely did. From deep in a gorge of rough-hewn ground came the greatest find for miles around, in the heart of far northwestland, where he named it Moonlight Creek, as diggers rushed in great nuggets to seek. When it came to prospecting he was the best, yet to mine the stuff he'd no desire, though many a miner could now retire. He'd romanced the thought to settle down, perhaps an hotel in some newborn town. Moonlight tried his hand at this for sure, though fate had so much more in store. He took a wife, the Foxhill Belle, a darling young lady whom all wished well. She bore him 2 children, a lass and a lad. So for Moonlight the wanderer, town life seemed not bad. Most said he was brave and kind of heart and honest as the day. Too kind to many, for he shouldered their debt, and as time stole by came this to regret, for the bankers moved in to sell him outright. On Moonlight and business they lowered the boom, and prospecting recalled out where there's more room. Then times were tough and could seem so cruel, when typhoid did strike his true love was taken, and left the fearless explorer with faith fairly shaken. But life must be lived, and gold be found, so away he did set to seek out new ground. Away back in the hills he'd been gone so long, till a mate did appear to report something wrong. Now Totty, his daughter, was anxious. He must be delayed. But the mate said, I've looked in all places we'd stayed. Word drifted out. Moonlight was lost. And friends began to gather round. They reckon they'd search, she has to be found. For the bush is cold and damp about now. Though Moonlight has strength, instinct and will, still the whisper goes round, exposure can kill. Now Toddy was fearful. Her pa was in need, laying deep in the forest, bone broken, praying for help or wounded to bleed. What could be done? Someone should ride. The law must be summoned for help up north by the tide. So Totty, she gives no more thought to the strife and lightly mounts up with heartbeat so quickened. Godspeed this ride for dear life. Like racing the wind, her steed thunders on, through rapids on rivers and skirting the bogs, past trees upon trees over mossy old logs, o'er hill down dale, past Cobb and Coast coach. All friends await, passing this time, and speak of her courage beyond reproach. Daylight fades, the night beginning to meet, as Totty rides home near exhaustion, and townfolk they gather to greet. 150 miles, she's shown great courage today, and as some men they lend her from her horse, there seems to echo some ghostly applause. The constabulary came to visit the scene, and they tried to determine where Moonlight had been. They searched and they called and they looked for days, but luck was so fickle it would not go along, and chances seemed slim for the time he's been gone. Jack Tarrant arrived, and he'd been a good mate. He'd go searching alone before it's too late. Oh, he searched and he called and... Listen? Was that a twig crack? Can you hear me, my friend? But alas, no answer comes back. He ponders a while, if only to draw a new breath, and away to the left along a wee creek and up a steep bank to gain flat ground, and there, neath the ferns, a body is found. And folks again, they gathered around to remember the deeds of this great man, as word spread across the breadth of the land, but the legend was gone, as if by God's hand. It was from Scotland shores, they say, he came, whereas a lad of 6 years plus 3, a young George Moonlight had put to sea.
Wonderful, Trev.
Fantastic. That's the story. That's the story.
You've done very well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, it's a story that's got all the adventure and the romance and the tragedy. That makes it a great story.
And you've been able to compile that into rhyme. It's bloody magic, and it helps you put that through. Well done.
That's right.
Yeah.
So,
It gives me a good understanding of your interest in this area. He was in this environment.
That's right. Yeah.
The adversities that he has to face.
That's right. Yeah. And it gives you an appreciation of the pioneer lifestyle and discovering new goldfields and what they went through. They lived a Spartan life. They had the minimalistic rations, flour and that sort of stuff, and just lived off the land. It's a wonder they lived at all.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Trev, you've had a celebration here not long ago for the Moonlights.
150th anniversary. Yeah. 7th of April 1865, George Moonlight found the goldfield here.
Yes.
And there's no real proof that he actually collected the provincial reward for discovering a new goldfield, which is something like £1,000, which would have been a huge amount of money those days. And but he ended up a businessman and a packer running supplies to the goldfields in Murchison and beyond, way beyond, and used to be a gold buyer and buy gold his establishment in Murchison, Hampton at the time it was called, and Hamden, and then up to Nelson. He used to ride at night.
Yeah.
And I've always...
Why do you ride at night, Trev?
Well, I always thought about that, and I thought probably just to mitigate the risk of robbers on the track, because there's been the Burgess Kelly gang that were murdering bastards, you know, and he'd be riding with a few 100 ounces of gold each time, and he'd be an easy target in daytime, but he rode at night, and that's my gut feeling why he rode at night.
A bit more safety that way.
Yeah.
And a horse has got an astute sense of smell and hearing too, and if they've done the track a few times, they get to know where they're heading.
And it was only a pack track. It was not a coach road at that stage, you know. The coach road was slowly coming down, but eventually, of course, when the gold rush hit the Lyell and that, they had to get the coach road from Nelson right through to the Lyell, and then of course eventually on down to the Bull a bit. So it's quite an amazing story of you know, the discovery of a goldfield, and then what happens next, the rush and the establishment of a town like Murchison, and because Moonlight here, after he found the gold here and left, he went back to his establishment, his wife and young daughter in Murchison, or Foxhill, and then they came down to Murchison, but he didn't stay here, he didn't remain here, but of course the district has always been the Moonlight district, and because he discovered the goldfield also down in Otago, which bears his name down there, and the mail got confused and mixed up, so they gave this Moonlight discovery here the name of Atarau, which is a Maori derivative of the Moonlight word.